Hello everyone, welcome to The Old Man and the Read. My name is Jerry. A couple of weeks ago I published a video titled Best 77 Books I read over the past 77 years, I think it was. But in it I announced that will be my last video, and I was going to be closing down my YouTube channel. But a couple of things occurred after that have kind of altered things. First of all, after I published the video, I kept remembering books that I had read that I should have included, and I just kept coming up with more and more of them, and so that became a problem. But then the real thing that's prompted me to do this is the response I got from that video. You know, I have been producing these videos for about 2 years, and usually, you know, I could get I was happy to get 100, 150 views. Sometimes I would get less, sometimes more. But, you know, that was kind of the area I was getting in views. So I was happy with it. But this video, this last video, I've had about 63,000 views already on it, you know, the last time I checked. And, you know, I really have no explanation on why there's such a huge difference in the views from what I had been doing to this one. I know somebody suggested that maybe it was just the title of the video was a little more catchy, but I really don't know. So anyway, I kind of feel obligated to do at least one more video, and that one I'm titling the 77 more books I should have included in the 77 best books, or I'm not sure what the title is I came up with. But the reason I was going to shut down my channel was because of the time I was spending just rereading books that I had read, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And I just wasn't able to read a lot of new books in that time. And I have a whole list of books I want to read, so I'll probably be devoting a lot more time to reading new books and maybe posting videos occasionally, but we'll see how this all works out. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and then start getting my stacks of books, and I'll show you the 77 books I should have included. Okay, I'm back. I've got my stack of books, and I'm going to probably pause this a few times to change my stacks. So, and I'm not very professional at this, so that's I'll just announce when I do it, I guess. But the first book I have that I wanted to show is just really, I thought, an incredible book. This is Balcony in the Forest by Julian Grach. And this is basically about a small group of soldiers who are stationed in a concrete bunker that is just near the Belgium border as the German army is invading Belgium. And they're in a very idyllic, peaceful setting. And Grach just beautifully started increasing the tension in the narration and building it up to what was the ominous conclusion. The next book is kind of a classic. It's Tobacco Road by Erskine Caldwell, and but it's just a fantastic book. This is a satire of the Jeter-Lester family, and they live wretched lives in rural Georgia, and a lot of it is just about their depravity. The third one on my list is the Penguin Book of Japanese Short Stories. This not written, but it's published by J. Rubin, I guess. But this is just an absolutely sensational collection of short stories. There's over 30 Japanese writers in there, but just the translations are just fantastic. They read just like they would have been written in English. Okay, the fourth book I have is Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. This is a book I read close to 60 years ago, and I just fell in love with Solzhenitsyn's writing. This is just quite an exceptional book. He's written quite a few really good ones. But this exposes the brutality of the Soviet slave labor camps, and it's based on Solzhenitsyn's own experiences. And it kind of it also includes a lot about the Soviet system itself. The fifth book on the list is Something Black by Jacques Ruband, and just an incredibly good book of poetry. This was written after his wife's death, and he wrote a couple of other books that I thought were really fantastic, but this is a collection of poetry. But it's just incredibly well written, and most of the poems deal with the finality of death. Number 6 on my list is Sleepwalking Land by Miyakoto. A fantastic writer. I've read, I think, everything that he published or close to it. But this is just really a great book. It's about a young boy and an old man who seek refuge in a burned bus to escape the ravages of war. And on the bus are a lot of burned bodies that they dispose of. But while they're doing that, they discover a notebook by one of the passengers, and that leads into just really an incredible story. The 7th book on my list is An Instant in the Wind by Andrei Brink. And this is kind of a strange love story, but it takes place in South Africa in 1751. And it's about a young, very arrogant white woman who is stranded out in the wilderness, hundreds of miles from civilization, when her husband commits suicide. So she's stranded out in the wilderness, and she's found by an escaped slave who then decides, in spite of his own safety, to lead her to back to civilization. Number 8 on my list is Train Dreams by Dennis Johnson, by far his best book. And Dennis Johnson wrote some really great books. This is just a little thin thing, but it's just sensationally written in very lyrical prose. But it tells just the story of a logger named Robert Grenier. Number 9 on my list is nonfiction. This is Calculating the Cosmos by Ian Stewart. And this book explains various aspects of the cosmos and just in a very clear and concise way, and makes a lot of the really incomprehensible things understandable. Number 10 on my list is Berta Isla by Javier Marias. Incredible writer. I could have included just about anything he wrote, but this is Berta Isla, and Berta Isla and a young man, Thomas Nevinson, meet when they're very young and fall in love. Then he goes to Oxford for education, but just before his graduation, he is suspected of a murder and coerced into joining the MI6, and the story goes from there. Okay, number 11 on the list is Ironweed by William Kennedy. This is set in 1938 Depression years, and it follows Francis and Helen. They're two homeless people who wander the streets. Number 12 is Poems, Prose, and Letters by Elizabeth Bishop, a favorite poet of mine, and she wrote just great prose too. And this is just a wonderful collection of poems and essays and just various things. Number 13 is The Sisters, Brothers by Patrick DeWitt. Really a great, entertaining book. But it's a humorous tale that follows Eli and Charlie's sisters. And they're brothers who are hired killers, but it's just really well written and a humorous story. Number 14 is Silence by Shusaku Endo. And this takes place in 17th century Japan. And it follows a Portuguese priest who sneaks into Japan to search for a missing priest. And this was after Japan had banned Christianity in the country. Number 15 is How Much of These Hills is Gold by C. Pam Zhang. The writing is difficult to follow at times, but it becomes, I think, clearer as the reader goes on. But it follows Lucy and her sister Sam, and as they go through some unrelenting hardships, and much of it mirrors the experiences of the early Chinese immigrants during this period. Number 16 on the list is Pinion by Vladimir Nabokov, another incredible writer. I could have included anything he wrote, but this is about it's my favorite. It's about a bumbling professor who immigrated to America from Russia. The next book, number 17, Where the Bluebirds Sing to the Lemonade Springs by Wallace Stegner. Wallace Stegner, I think, as far as I'm concerned, wrote only 5-star books. So I could have included any, but I really like this book. But this is just a collection of just sensational essays and memoirs. Okay, number 18 on the list is The Amazing Adventures of Kavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon. This follows the lives of two young Jewish boys, or young men, who create a comic superhero called the Escapist. Kavalier had been sent by his family from Prague to New York to escape from the Nazis, and then his goal was to try to assist his family get out. Number 19 on my list is Being Dead by Jim Crace, a fantastic book. This is about a couple who are murdered while making love on a sand dune, and the story follows the days and years leading up to that occasion, and then describes the decay process that occurs after. And number 20 is Free Air by Sinclair Lewis. I've read just about everything by Sinclair Lewis, and this is my favorite. But it's about a young woman who decides to set out to drive across from New York to Seattle. And this is during a period when roads were just dirt and mud, and cars broke down frequently and tires punctured. So a very entertaining book that was written for that period, so it was written as if people just expected it. Okay, I'm going to pause and... Okay, I'm back. Number 21 on the list is The Vital Question, another nonfiction by Nick Lane. And this book basically describes what we know about the origins of life and the enormous amount that we don't know about it. And it discusses what is really the almost impossibility of it. Number 22 is The Bridge on the Drina by Ivo Andrić. And this is a story that's based around a stone bridge that was built 3 centuries ago. And it's a story that talks about the history of the Balkans during that time on through the years, and about the people, mostly the Serbs and the Muslim, Bosnian Muslims. Number 23 is Cloud Splitter by Russell Banks, one of those writers I've read pretty much everything he wrote, but this was my favorite. And it's a story that's narrated by the son of John Brown, the abolitionist and Christian fundamentalist. And it basically is him talking about his father. Number 24 on my list is another nonfiction, Britain, 1 Million Years of Human History by Rob Dennis and Chris Stringer. And really a great discussion of human occupation in Britain over the last million years, and a lot of it talks about the fossil evidence that they have. And included in the story is this really fascinating landmass that I've read other books on, that was a landmass between Europe and Britain at one time during the Ice Age, called Doggerland. Number 25 is Years of Childhood by Sergei Aksakhov. Just an extraordinarily good memoir of his early childhood. Number 26 is The Abyss of Human Illusion by Gilbert Sorrentino, one of those really great writers I really enjoy reading, exceptional writer. And this is a collection of very short vignettes most of them are only a few paragraphs long, and but as the book progresses, they get increasingly longer and are up to a couple of pages by the end. But although they're very short little vignettes, they're just actually complete stories in themselves. Number 27 is The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Disha Philyaw. Really a great little collection of short stories that deal mostly with sexual desire in a world of sexual repression. Number 28 is The Devil All the Time by Donald Ray Pollock. And this is really a rather bleak and dark story full of just despicable characters. And it's set in the backwoods of southern Ohio in a place called Knockham Stiff. Number 29 is Symbiotic Planet by Lynn Margulis, a fabulous biologist who I've read several books from. But she explains how symbiosis has driven most of the innovations that occurred in evolution. Let's see. Number 30, Maps for Lost Lovers by Nadim Aslam. Great book, great writer. This is about Muslim immigrants in Western Europe and the deep cultural differences in their lifestyles. But really a great book. Number 31 is Fundamentals, 10 Keys of Reality, another nonfiction by Frank Wilczek. And in this one, each chapter basically discusses a different fundamental of reality. And some of the interesting parts that I enjoyed are, like, it talks about how large the universe is, and then the incomprehensible amount of space that's even at the atomic or subatomic scale. Okay, number 32 is The Real Story of Ah Q and Other Tales of China by Liu Jin. And this is a collection of short stories. They were written, most of the stories were written between 1911 and 1935, and they just give a great window into the lives of the people and how society was at that time. Number 33 is Half-Blood Blues by Essie Edugyan. I don't know the correct pronunciation. And this is about a group of black jazz musicians who are in Nazi-occupied Paris. Number 34 is The Narrow Road to the Deep North by Richard Flanagan. This follows a Australian colonel who is captured by the Japanese, and then he's put in command of a group of POWs who are literally being worked to death building a railroad in the jungle. Number 35, Servants of the Map by Andrea Barrett. She wrote great short stories, and this is a collection that's mostly about relationships, but most of the stories are based around a science of some sort, and did that in most of her books. Number 36, The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. And this is about a young man who goes to the New Zealand gold field and finds himself entangled in a murder mystery. Number 37 is Honey in the Horn by H.L. Davis. This is a story set in around the turn of the century, and it's about the lives of settlers in early Oregon. Number 38 is Starship Troopers by Robert A. Heinlein. A great sci-fi book that revolves basically around man's compulsion to fight in war, mostly in service to his country. Number 39, another nonfiction, The Book of Nothing by John D. Barrow. And it's kind of a mind-numbing book about an all-encompassing about basically nothing, and it's the history of nothing. But the book eventually concludes that absolute nothing does not exist. And number 40 on my list is Project Orion by George Dyson. An actual true story that's unbelievable. But it's a story that of the U.S. government and their attempts to launch a gigantic spaceship that was put into into space by a continuous string of atomic bombs being blown up behind it. Okay, I'm back with another stack of books. Number 41 on the list is Call Us What We Carry by Amanda Gorman. She was the young poet who was at the Biden inauguration, I guess it was. But after I saw her, I was just really impressed with her, and I ordered this book. It hadn't even been published yet, and I was expecting it to be good. But, you know, this is greatly exceeded my expectations. Just a spectacular book of poetry. Number 42 is A Quiet Life by Kenzaburo Oe. Wonderful writer, one of my favorites, and this is kind of a blending by him of a memoir and fiction, and like most of his books, it's loosely based around his family. Number 43, Masters and Servants by Pierre Michon. A great writer. I love his work. This is 5 short stories that are basically about famous and not so famous artists, but just spectacular prose. Let's see, number 44, Quantum Enigma by Bruce Rosenblum and Fred Kuttner, another nonfiction, and this is about how quantum mechanics or quantum theory and the experiments they've done have pretty much proven it to be indisputable, but trying to explain what we found has been very problematic, and a lot of it they almost appears as if it depends on consciousness itself, and it's just a really mind-boggling, but a book that's really basically over my head. Number 45, Empire of the Sun by J.G. Ballard. A great story about a young, wealthy English boy who's separated from his family when the Japanese army invades or took over Shanghai. And the story basically is about the time he spent on the streets before he was captured, and then about his years in internment camp. Number 46, Oh, the Chimneys by Nellie Sachs. A wonderful book of poetry, mostly dealing with the Holocaust. But the title poem itself, Oh, the Chimney, is just an incredibly powerful poem. Number 47, The Testament of Mary by Colm Toibin. And this is about Mary as an old woman, and she's living in exile. But Mary is, much of the story is about her talking about her son Jesus and his various episodes in his life. Number 48 is A Prayer for Katerina Horovitsova by Ernest Lustig. Ernest Lustig is another, he wrote mostly stories, fictional stories about the Holocaust. And this is a story about a young woman who is separated from her family as they're being led to the gas chamber. And it basically, the story is about the desperation of people that are in a totally hopeless situation. Let's see. Number 49 is Danube by Claudio Magris, another fantastic writer. And this is a book-length essay about that follows the Danube River from its source to the Black Sea, and it's about all the regions it travels through and the people and the history of those areas. Number 50 on my list is The Beauty of Falling by Claudia de Ham. Great book. This is it tells her life history basically, and how it eventually led her to study gravity, and then to discover secrets of gravity and to come up with a new theory that she's proposed. Number 51 on the list is The Light and the Dark by Mikhail Shishkin. And this is a story told through alternating letters between Vovka and Sasha, and he has been sent to war during the Boxer Rebellion. Number 52 on the list is The Indian Clerk by David Levitt. And this is about a British mathematician. This is basically a fictional story based on true story, I believe. But a British mathematician finds out about a self-taught mathematical genius in India, and he brings him to Britain. Number 53 is The Sibyl by Per Lagerkvist. Another writer I really enjoy, but this is about a woman who was a sibyl in the shrine of the Delphi, but she now lives in the mountains and is visited by a wandering Jew. Number 54 is Life on the Edge by Jim Al-Khalili and John Joe McFadden. It's a very complex discussion of life and its possible and known connections to quantum mechanics. Number 55, The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by Honoré Fanonne Jeffers. This is about a young woman who's pursuing a doctorate in history, but embedded in that is basically a history of the black experience in America. Number 56 is War of the Newts by Karel Čapek. He wrote some fantastic satires, but this is about a new species of large intelligent salamanders who are discovered, and then mankind decides to exploit them for profit and gain. But as the salamanders keep working for mankind, they keep gaining knowledge, and this leads to some dire consequences. Number 57 is Beloved by Toni Morrison, an incredible writer. This probably could have been listed a lot higher than that. It's really a fantastic book. But this is about an escaped slave who has killed her baby daughter in order to prevent the baby from being taken into slavery. But then later she meets a young woman who she thinks is that dead daughter. Number 58 is One Nun and 100,000 by Luigi Pirandello. And this is a book that basically asks, who am I? We each have a self-image of ourselves, but this doesn't necessarily match what others, how others see us. But Pirandello weaves this philosophical concept into a story, and it follows the antics of the protagonist. Number 59 is Asymmetry by Adam Zagajewski, just another of my favorite poets, and a great book of poetry. Number 66 is Origins of Existence by Fred Adams, and basically in the story, or in the book, he argues that life is a natural outcome from the laws of physics that as they develop after the Big Bang. Okay, that's I'm going to pause and do another stack. Okay, I'm back with one more stack of books. Number 61 on my list is About This Life by Barry Lopez. And this is a collection of essays that combine both his personal life with his naturalist life. And I really like Barry Lopez. He kind of reminds me a lot of another of my favorite writers, Peter Mathiasson. Number 62 is Teresa Desquaraux by Francois Mariac. And this is about a woman who's found innocent in court for an attempt to murder her husband. even though she was actually guilty. And then the story is just basically about her and her circumstances when she returns to the house and her husband. Number 63 is Absolutely Small by Michael D. Fayer, another nonfiction. And it's a great overview of quantum physics. It explains how quantum physics affects atoms and molecules and complex molecules. And I have to tell you, I keep reading these books on quantum mechanics because I'm hoping to understand it, but I have to admit most of it's just over my head. Number 64 is the Life and Times of Michael K. by J.M. Coetzee. Just really a great book. This takes place during a civil war in South Africa, and it follows Michael K. But he sets out to take his mother back to her hometown because she's dying. But she dies on the way, and this sets Michael off on just a really dysfunctional journey of all kinds of misadventures. Number 65 is The Tin Drum by Günter Grass. Another writer I've read pretty much all of his books. I don't know. There's probably some I haven't. But this is, and most of his books are really quite strange. But this follows Oscar. He's somebody who decides to stop growing at the age of 3. And he's really a difficult person to deal with. And he beats his drum and basically manipulates people's lives. Number 66 is The Accidental Time Machine by Joe Haldeman. He's one of my favorite sci-fi writers just because his books are very entertaining. But this is a story about a man who accidentally makes a time machine. Number 67 on the list is Deaf Republic by Ilya Kaminsky. This is a book of connected poems that begin with the shooting of a deaf child. And it's just really incredibly powerful. And it's about political unrest in an occupied country. Number 68 is How the Bible Became Holy by Michael L. Satlow. And it describes how an assortment of various ancient writings were slowly developed into what we now refer to as the Bible. Number 69 is The Roving Party by Rohan Wilson. This is set in 1829 in Tasmania, and it's about a group of men that are assembled and they roam across the land in search of Aborigines to murder. Number 70 on the list is Climate of Fear by Wol Soyinka. Just really a powerful collection of lectures about fanaticism, intolerance, and the need for dignity in this really troubled world. Number 71, The Great Wall by Julia Lavelle. Just really a fantastic history of the Great Wall from its beginning about 3,000 years ago. Number 72, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern by Tom Stoppard. Just basically a comedy of the absurd, but it's a small little play that features two minor characters that from Hamlet, and they're basically stuck in this surreal, semi-reality situation where everyone in the play are actors except them, and this is actual life for them. Number 73, Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. I'm not a huge George Saunders fan, but I thought this book was brilliant. It's basically about Lincoln trying to come to terms with the death of his young son before the burial. Number 74, Soldiers in Hiding by Richard Wiley. It's about an American jazz band made up of Japanese Americans, and they become stranded in Japan after Pearl Harbor is attacked, and eventually are required to join the Japanese military. Number 75, an autobiography of my mother, Jamaica Kincaid. Really a great writer, very lyrical prose, and so I wanted to include her in my list. But this is the story of the life of a woman who's from birth to old age, and whose mother had died while she was giving birth to her. And it's just told in very lyrical prose. Number 76, The Chant of Jimmy Blacksmith by Thomas Keneally. Another really great writer who I've read pretty much most of his books. But this follows Jimmy Blacksmith and his brother, who go on a killing spree, and then they escape into the Australian outback. And the story is told with using very heavily accented Aboriginal dialogue in the discussion. And number 77, this is a book, 1 in 300 by J.T. McIntosh, and this is a book that I decided to go ahead and include just because I really enjoy sci-fi. I like the two types of sci-fi I like. I like sci-fi that with very accurate science and a great story. And then I like the 50s and 60s sci-fi where the science is just ridiculous. And this book is probably, I like it because it's probably the worst book I've ever read in my life. It's the premise is ridiculous, the science completely wrong, and really the writing itself is terrible. But it's so bad I actually love the book. So anyway, those are 77 more books that could have been in my top 77 books. So I want to thank you for watching. I'm not sure. I think I'll probably continue doing videos, but they're going to be more random and spread out. I want to try to read a lot of new books instead of rereading old ones. So thank you for watching if you made it through, and hopefully I'll see you again. Thanks.